My pleasure to present to you an introductory workshop on parliamentary law and procedure. Um, I want to thank the governor for uh, honoring me with the appointment. And without further ado, I'm going to start talking about parliamentary law. Parliamentary law, and it's not working, is a system of rules designed to protect the rights of people attending and conducting meetings. It provides common rules and procedures for deliberation and debate in order to place the whole membership on the same footing and speaking the same language. The conduct of all meetings is controlled by the general will of the membership, the right of the deliberate majority to decide. Complementary to that is the right of at least a strong minority to require the majority to be deliberative and to act according to its considered judgment after a full and fair working through of the issues involved. Robert's Rules provides for constructive and democratic meetings to help, not hinder, the business of the assembly. Under no circumstances should undue strictness be allowed to intimidate the members or limit full participation. The fundamental right of a deliberate assembly is to require all questions to be thoroughly discussed before taking action. The assembly rules. They have the final say on everything. Silence means consent. The principles underlying parliamentary procedure are constructed upon a careful balance of the rights of the majority, of the minority, of absentees, and all of these groups together. It enables the membership to express its will through its membership, to empower an effective leadership, and to retain direct control of its affairs. The majority decides the will of the assembly through a deliberate process of full and free discussion. Every member has the same right to make the maximum effort to have her position declared the will of the assembly. A deliberative assembly is free to do whatever it must to ensure the basic rights of its members. Parliamentary law and procedure is the best method to safeguard those rights and responsibilities of everyone in an organization. It allows an assembly to arrive at the will of the majority for the greatest number of questions in the shortest amount of time. This is accomplished whether there's total harmony or there's impassioned division of opinion. All organizations are subject to a hierarchy of governance, beginning initially with federal statutes, regulatory guidelines provided by, for example, the Internal Revenue Service, the securities, our state laws are next, which includes our incorporation laws and any guidelines and laws that affect organizations in our particular states. And then our cities have local rules and statutes that may, of course, control some of the things that we do in our clubs. Finally, our association is guided by our bylaws, which defines the association's business. The rules of order covers everything else that transpires in our meetings. The standing rules are maintenance rules and operational policies, often adopted prior to a meeting or maintained throughout the year as a regular part of our operations. And of course, there's customs. That's what you hear most about. Well, we did it this way, or we've always done it that way. And those apply as well in our organizations. Parliamentary law protects the rights of members to be dealt with fairly and equitably. It encourages everyone's cooperation and the timely order of business. With rights come responsibilities. The rights of the association members include the right to receive notice of meetings, the right to attend meetings, to make motions, to second motions, to debate motions, to vote on motions, to nominate members for office in the association, to be nominated for office in the association. We have a right to know the meaning of the questions that are before the forum for debate. We have the right to object when rules are not being followed. We have the right to appeal the decision of the chair. We have to be free from personal abuse and attack. In addition, we have right to have the access to the minutes of all meetings. We have a right to receive the treasurer's and financial secretary's report and a copy of the association's bylaws. Our responsibilities further the association's function. When all members understand their duties as part of a team, business will be accomplished with greater ease. Members' responsibilities include the responsibility to attend meetings, to be on time, to stay until the end of the meeting, to be prepared to speak knowledgeably and intelligently on a topic, to be attentive, to be open-minded, to be courteous, to speak openly but allow others to speak, to follow the rules of debate, to make a point concisely, insist upon law and order at meetings. We have a right to attack issues, not people. We have a responsibility to work to create dignity and decorum in our meetings. Have a right to participate actively in our meetings, and the responsibility to work with others in a cooperative manner. We should be responsible for obeying the rules of the association and be familiar with the basic rules of parliamentary procedure. We have a responsibility to pay all of our dues and assessments and respect the rights of others, to abide by the final decision of the majority, and to bring in or recommend new members. We're also responsible to be familiar with the association's bylaws, to select well-qualified officers, and we have a responsibility for participation on committees. And it is responsible to vary our committee work. We tend to get stuck in one committee and stay there for 20 years. We have a responsibility to learn other areas of our responsibilities as club members. We have responsibility to respect the opinions and rulings of the chair and promote the association's growth and influence in the community, and to enhance the reputation of the association. So let's talk about debate protocol in our meetings. First and most importantly, only one person speaks at a time, and a speaker must be recognized before speaking. All comments are made through the chair. No reading of lengthy papers.
Okay.
And there to be no cross conversations and interruptions of speakers. Absolutely no verbal attack of other members. Call a recess if proper decorum cannot be maintained. And debate time is specified by the bylaws or parliamentary authority. Remember that decisions made without a quorum are null and void. And the vote required to adopt a motion should always be clear. It is either the majority or 2/3. All decisions are binding on all members, regardless of how the member voted. And all rules must be respected and obeyed. Who can move, who can debate, and who can vote. The chairman, as the presiding officer, has the following authority: to decide the order in which speakers will be recognized, to refuse to recognize members that are offering dilatory, absurd, or frivolous motions, to restrain speakers within the limits of the rules, and to appoint committees, to decide points of order, to vote in cases where the vote would make or break a tie. And the chair should definitely always avoid influencing a vote by her own comment on a motion. The basics of parliamentary procedure is simple in principle. It is based upon common sense and courtesy. It may seem technical due to the special vocabulary. However, if we understand the vocabulary, the rules are easy. The basic principles of parliamentary procedure includes that only one subject at the time may claim the attention of the assembly. Every proposition for consideration is entitled to full and free debate. Every member has the right equal to every other member. The will of the majority must be carried out, while the rights of the minority must be preserved.
Martha.
What if the chair is the one making the motion? The chair should not make a motion while the chair is the chair. If the chair would like to make a motion, and the chair should give the gavel to the vice and become a member and make a motion like any other member. I was answering the question that somebody wrote down there, and I tend to do that. No, Judy, I was answering a question. Was I not supposed to do that? Judy,
just go ahead. Just go on. We're gonna do the chats afterwards. So you just go on.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. The proper way to propose a certain action by the group is to make a motion. The main motion brings the question or proposition to the assembly for consideration. Only one main motion may be considered by the assembly at the time. The next type of motion is a subsidiary motion, which seeks to modify or otherwise dispose of the main motion being considered. They are proposed while the main motion is being considered and must be disposed of prior to voting on the main motion. The The next type of motions are privileged motions, which have no connection to the main motion before the assembly, but they are of such importance as to require the immediate consideration of the assembly. And maybe the business may be set aside in order to address a privileged motion. Incidental motions are arise incidentally out of the business of the assembly. And they have very common characteristics. The division of assembly, point of order, an appeal, or a motion to suspend the rules. A motion is handled by a member raising her hand and addressing the presiding officer. The presiding officer should be addressed as Madam President, Madam Governor, Madam Chair. The member is recognized by the presiding officer. When a member is recognized, that member is the only member entitled to present or discuss a motion. When a member proposes a motion, she should begin with, "I move that," followed by a statement of proposal. It is not permissible to discuss the merits of the motion prior to or immediately following the formal proposal of the motion. Very often, we get the floor and we do a preamble and explain the reason for our motion prior to. That is out of order. We should make the motion and the discussion follows the motion. Yes, we're gonna get the presentation via email. No, we aren't. It's gonna be available on the website. These questions are distracting me. I keep reading them. After a main motion is made, another member seconds the motion. The member simply states, "I second the motion," or says second. If nobody seconds the motion, the presiding officer may ask if there is a second to the motion. If there is none, she may declare that the motion is lost for want of a second. Once the motion is made and seconded, the presiding officer states the motion to the assembly. When a motion has been properly proposed and seconded, the presiding officer repeats the motion to the assembly, and the motion is referred to as the question or proposition or measure. The assembly discusses or debates the motion. To speak, a member must obtain the floor in the same manner as when presenting a motion. The presiding officer should show preference to the proposer of the motion at the beginning of the debate. In other words, the maker of the motion is entitled to be the first speaker, which is where at this time it would be appropriate for the maker to explain in detail her reason for making the particular motion. In the process of the debate, a member who has not spoken takes precedence over one that has spoken. And the presiding officer should alternate between proponents and opponents of a particular motion. And sometimes she may have to ask if the speaker is requesting to speak pro or con in order to try to balance the presentations. The presiding officer should recognize a member who seldom speaks over one who speaks all the time. The discussion must be confined to the question that is before the assembly. right, let's talk about amending a motion. The purpose of the motion to amend is to modify a motion that has already been presented in such a manner as to make it amenable to the members of the assembly. The purpose of the motion to amend is to, I'm sorry. There are common methods for amending a motion: by addition or insertion, which is to add something that the motion does not contain; by elimination or striking out, which is to subtract something that is in the motion; or by substitution, by replacing something in the motion with something else. An amendment may be hostile, but it must be germane. A hostile amendment is opposed to the spirit of the motion, the main motion that's on the floor, and it may kill the motion, but as long as it is germane, it is in order. There are two types of amendments. The amendments of the first rank is the initial amendment to the motion. An amendment of the second rank is an amendment to the amendment that modifies and relates directly to the amendment and not to the original motion. There are no amendments beyond the second rank. If it is desired to amend two separate and unrelated parts of a motion, then it must be done by two amendments of the first rank. Until an amendment of the second rank is voted on, no other amendment of the second rank is in order. Therefore, until the amendment of the first rank is voted on, another amendment of the first rank cannot be proposed. Often in meetings, we do amendments and there's a proposal to amend the amendment, but that's out of order. You have to handle the amendment, initial amendment, and the amendment of the second rank should be handled first if there is an amendment, a proposed amendment to the amendment of the first rank. That sounds very confusing, doesn't it? As I say it, it even sounds confusing to me, and I know what I'm meaning to say. But the order of amendments are voted on in inverse order. In other words, we vote for the amendment of the second rank and decide that, after which we vote on the amendment of the first rank, which is the initial amendment to the main motion that is on the floor. After the amendments have been voted on, the vote is taken on the
Martha, you there?
On the motion as amended. Yes, we are all here, Barbara.
Okay.
Methods of voting. The method of a vote on a motion depends on the situation and the bylaws or policy of the organization. There are 5 methods that are used to vote by most organizations. By voice, the chair asks, those in favor say aye and those opposed no. And every member may move for an exact count at any time. Or by roll call, each member answers yes or no as her name is called. This method is usually used when a record of each person's vote is required. By general consent, a lot of the business taken care in our meetings are done by general consent. When a motion is not likely to be opposed, as determined by the chair says if there's no objection, the membership shows agreement by their silence. However, if one member says, I object, the item must be put to a vote. By division, This is a slight variation of the voice vote. It does not require a count unless the chair desires for there to be, or a member requests a division. At that time, members stand or raise their hands. And of course, there's the voting by ballot, where members write their vote on a slip of paper. And this method is used when secrecy is desired. It's generally used when we are voting for officers. Most of the business of an association or in a meeting is handled by a voice vote or a raise of hands, and often by general consent. And there are two other motions that are commonly used that relate to voting, and one is the motion to table. This motion is used often in an attempt to kill the motion, and it does. However, the option to take from the table for consideration is always available to the membership. Another motion is the motion to postpone indefinitely. This motion is used as a parliamentary strategy and allows opponents to test their motion to see how the strength, the support that they have without actually taking a vote on the matter. How are we doing for time? Ladies, the governor and my host told me that we would, I had too much for one presentation. However, I told them that I did not, as I talk fast. However, in your handout, and you will, there is a handout, and it will be available to all of the participants. In fact, it will be available to all the members of the Southeast District, the entire handout. But it includes a glossary of parliamentary terms, as well as one table of motions that we'll go over if we have time, after I briefly discuss the role of the parliamentarian. The parliamentarian is an expert in the rules of order and the proper procedures for the conduct of meetings and deliberative assemblies. Parliamentarians assist organizations in drafting bylaws. I was reading that.
It's still there. I'm sorry.
Okay. They also define the specific bylaws, define the makeup, the governance, and rights and responsibilities of a given organization and its members. They also define specific rules which may be unique to a specific organization, which cannot be suspended, but must be adhered to. Bylaws must be compliant with the laws governing the organization. And we talked about the hierarchy of governance, beginning with the federal government, state government, local, and then our bylaws. Parliamentarians are often asked by organizations to give opinions to questions such as, given our current bylaws and rules of order and other laws, how do we do this, or what is the proper procedure to accomplish this objective? The parliamentarian will review the organization's governing documents, the applicable law, and will provide an opinion as to how to proceed within the rules. Judy, did we not skip something about drafting and interpreting bylaws? Because I wanted to be sure that that we note that all organizations usually adopt the parliamentary authority, such as the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order. Now, when I started this, I thought that the 11th edition was the current edition. As I got into my research, I understand that there is a 12th edition. And I found that out because I ordered a electronic copy of the brief of the Robert's Rules that I sent out to the clubs in brief, and they reference the 12th edition. So there is a 12th edition. The 11th edition is no longer the most recent. Okay. Also, the parliamentarian is often called upon to assist organizations in planning meetings. In planning of the meeting, the agenda will specify the proper sequence of events, but consideration must be given to such things as proper protocol, say in the presentation of various attendees, opening ceremonies, seating, which is generally covered in an organization's protocol manual or policy and procedures manual. Parliamentarian is of special use in the preparation of scripts for the chair, credentials reports and considerations, election forms and reports, and the process in the consideration of motions and bylaw amendments. The role of the parliamentarian at a meeting is to be a resource to the chair, to assist the chair in the conduct of meetings. She sits adjacent to the chair and unobtrusively gives the chair help, guidance, and support during the meeting. The chair can and should consult with the parliamentarian when not certain how to rule on a question or how to proceed in the circumstances. However, it is rare that the parliamentarian is asked to explain the reason for a ruling, except in cases where it may be very involved and the result of some research that was done by the parliamentarian.
Well-qualified candidates for an office. How do you define those?
Well, in our case, there are our bylaws state some criteria for selection. There's our bylaws require the attendance at national or district conferences in order to be eligible to run for office. Other than that, well qualified, I would assume, is, for example, if for treasurer, it would be someone who has some experience with handling money and doing figures. I handle only my money, and I'm not sure I do that well, so I wouldn't be a good candidate for treasurer.
Okay, so the next question, I think you probably answered this one already. What if the chair is the one making the motion? Wouldn't they have to demonstrate bias to their own motion?
Okay, well, when the chair makes a motion, the chair is not the chair. The chair is just a member like anyone else at the time. But in order for the chair to make a main motion that her own motion to have something done or to do something that's not from a committee or what have you, then she would have to stand aside and allow the vice governor or the vice president to handle the gavel while she makes the main motion.
Okay.
At which time she would be qualified to be the first speaker on that motion and therefore show her bias.
What happens when meeting attendees refuse to abide by these procedures?
The short answer is usually not much. The chair can ask a member to leave the assembly. I've never seen that happen in I'm trying to think. The other members would of course make points of order and discuss it, and if the member does not, then she's would be subject to, depending on the extent of the infractions, or would be subject to disciplinary measures that are provided for in our bylaws.
I'm going to continue asking the questions. Is there any certification for a parliamentarian?
Oh yeah, there are, and I don't have it. I'm there are national certifications for parliamentarians, but if you mean for just in regular assemblies, the parliamentarian of a local club or a district or even national does not have to be a registered parliamentarian, but there is an association.
I'm going to continue. And someone just asked, is it true that a particular item can only be discussed twice during a session or meeting?
Well, once a matter is decided, well, discussion and decided is two different things. If it has been decided, then it should not be taken up at the same meeting. Of course, there's always the possibility of a motion to rescind an action already taken. But if it's just a discussion, that is up to the any specific rules of your club or organization, and up to the chair. I think Robert's rules may say something to the along the lines of discussions being limited to 2 times in a meeting. That's possibly a but that is, of course, is to avoid beating a dead horse. I'll be glad to address any questions that are emailed to me, and if they are something that I think that the entire district may need to know, I would make the answer available to the question and answer available to all of our members. So if you have specific questions that you'd like the parliamentarian to ask, I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can off the top of my head. And of course, I can always do my research and tell you for real what the answer is.
Mary says, great workshop, thank you. Miss Linda Brown says this was one of the best workshops I have attended during my time with NAMPBW.
Oh, Dr. Brown, I love you. Thank you so much. That makes me feel so good. I was concerned about, because the governor had just told me it was just so long. It was going to be 2 or 3, and as did my host. Okay. Again, thank you so much for letting me come to your home tonight. I've enjoyed doing this. I don't want to do it every week or anything, but